Hello, thanks for joining the show. It's Charlie, and I'm really excited to show you guys these two bikes. They're probably my funnest bikes to ride out of the Evo bikes, and honestly, in general, probably even over the KTMs, I have a blast riding these bikes, especially the 500. The two bikes are so completely different in how they ride, but yet the same, if that makes sense. So I'm blessed to have an 86 CR250 and 500, and we'll go through these today and we'll go from there. I actually got really blessed in getting these bikes. I didn't have to do a full rebuild for these, but I'll sort of explain both bikes, and it might take a few more minutes in this video, but I think it'll be worth it for you. This 500 I was luckily enough to find on Craigslist, and I paid, I think this was summer of, well, within the last 8 months, put it that way. And I paid $6,500 for it, and he had $2,800 in the motor alone, and as you see it pretty much. I really haven't done much to this bike since I bought it. Suspension was on point. He's about maybe a 230-pound rider, a big dude. Bought it, and older gentleman that's doing Evo races, and it's just too much of a pain in the ass to kick over, which, you know, you have to have the technique, otherwise it is. Just like I might have mentioned in my other videos, the 500s are sometimes ornery and a little pain to start when they're cold. Once they're started and warm, no problem. But the suspension is on point. I haven't changed anything in the suspension. We just set the sag. I'm about 195 pounds, and the bike feels perfect on the track. This thing is so much fun to ride, you guys. Anybody that says 500s are too much to ride, they are, but that's what makes them so fun to ride. This bike, you really need to be on point on the throttle and smooth throttle control. You know, the saying smooth is fast. That is this bike. You need to be smooth and anticipate everything on this bike because it is a beast. I did put a decompression valve on it. It does help. Once it's warm, you really don't need it. Still running the original radiators. The bike has just been an amazing bike. I'm running the Dunlop MX33s on both the bikes. I try and stay consistent with rubber. I don't like going different compounds and different tires because that's one thing that only attaches you to the track. And so I'm always running consistent tires and the same tires. And that really helps me for a feel because I already know what the tires are gonna do. The bike is definitely not for the timid though. It's just so much fun to ride. I have a modern 450 KTM factory edition, and that's probably one of my top bikes too. If like, hey, this was my last day to live, what bike's gonna be my last bike to ride? I don't know. It's gonna be this bike or probably the KTM out of the 40 bikes I have. That's probably gonna be it. So, says a lot for this bike. The 86 CR250, this thing's a screamer. I mean, we have Electron carb on it. This thing runs perfect. Every time I get off the track or after a race, I have people that come like, man, that thing's just dialed in perfect because it sounds, it's honestly like, this is a wheelie king, this is a wheelie king too. I mean, this thing is just perfectly running, and man, I can't say enough about this. This thing just, you're on the pipe constantly to stay in the gas. And this bike, I actually bought this bike in this 86 250, and about the same time. And what we did was we sort of took the cleanest parts and put the cleanest parts on the bike that I'm not gonna ride because I'm not gonna ride this bike. So it's more just gonna stay in sort of the collection and not get touched. And then the bike parts that we really weren't worried about or we need to retouch, we put on here. And so that one sort of has the better parts, and this one has the parts that we knew were gonna get used and abused on the track. Stillwell Performance did the suspension. We have the gold valves in the suspension. They did an amazing job. They're out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Ryan Factory Edge, I believe, just went through the motor, just made sure everything looked good and is where it should be. And we really haven't touched the motor at all, except for just inspecting it. What else? That's really it. We spent some time on the gas tank, making it look pretty, put different triple trees in, went with a little bit, the larger bars, so to speak. The CR high bars is what I like to run on the Hondas. Really like that bend bar. And that's really about it, guys. The other bikes too, I race 81 to 83 CR250 and 480. These are a lot more fun to race because they just feel better. They're faster, they feel faster. But again, we'll compare track times. I could be totally off and they might be the same. But it's just, they're such a fun riding bike. The 480 and 250 83 bikes, the brakes aren't as good, obviously. They're drum brakes. And they feel close, but yet again, different. These just feel so much better. If you're gonna race Evo class and you wanna stay with like the most modern bike, the single brake, what they call like D1 class, is the class to race. It's freaking awesome. It's super competitive. The next class I would do is like the 81 and 83 bikes. And then as you get into the vintage bikes, man, I mean, I have so many friends that are racing that class too. And a lot of them are older guys that are racing in it, but they are still wicked fast on those bikes. So maybe as I get a little bit older, maybe I'll go into the older classes, because I do have an 80 CR250 that I wouldn't mind racing. That would be pretty cool to race, or a 76 CR250, we'll see. But you'll be following us this next 2022 season. We'll be doing a lot of onboard footage with the races and just in the pits and things like that. Super easy to run these bikes. There are some videos already, if you check them out, from my races for the 2021 season that you could watch onboard footage with these bikes. But we'll get a lot more content coming at you for 2022. So stay tuned.